and the Conservative MP for Finchley and Golders Green will step down at the next election as a result of death threats over his pro-Israel stance. Meanwhile, this weekend saw further pro-Palestine marches in which a number of protesters waved placards perceived by some as anti-Semitic. And of course, a man who entered the country illegally and was turned down for asylum twice is now on the run for an alleged chemical attack on a woman, 2 children, with 9 others injured. So has the former Home Secretary Suella Braverman been proved right that multiculturalism in Britain has failed? Let's speak to foreign policy analyst, contributor to the Daily Telegraph and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Nile Gardiner. Niall, great to see you. I think your first appearance this year on the show. Suella Braverman got dog's abuse when she made those comments a few months ago. Has she been proved right?
Mark, it's great to be here on the show. Many thanks. I do think that Suella Braverman is absolutely correct in her assessment that multiculturalism has been a huge failure. I think that Suella Braverman's remarks made several months ago are absolutely spot on. And with regard to these massive anti-Semitic protests on the streets of London, pro-terror, pro-Hamas marches, it's a clear illustration of the huge failure of multiculturalism. What you now have is a state of affairs where Jewish Britons are afraid actually to even go into central London during these marches. Multiculturalism, I think, is fundamentally un-British. It has resulted in a very divided society. It is fundamentally wrong. It should be rejected. All immigrants to the United Kingdom should integrate fully into British culture. And multiculturalism, I think, has been a far-left idea which has failed spectacularly, not only in the United Kingdom, but all over Europe as well. And so the former Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, is 100% correct. Multiculturalism really should be, I think, thrown into the dustbin of history as an idea.
Now, Niall, like you, I've been very concerned about some of the placards that I've seen at these pro-Palestine marches. It's worth pointing out that many would argue they're on those marches because they want a ceasefire. But of course, you're entitled to your view, and many Jewish people have been distressed by these marches. It's important to acknowledge that. But if multiculturalism has failed, Niall, can it be fixed, or is the genie out of the lamp?
Well, it can only be fixed if all immigrants are willing to integrate into British society and culture. Those who support terrorism, for example, should be deported from the country. It is absolutely unacceptable that you have large numbers of individuals from, especially from the Middle East, who have not integrated at all into British society. The Islamist threat in the United Kingdom is absolutely massive. And Islamists who openly support terror, frankly, should be put on flights out of the country. They should be deported. There should be no place for this kind of evil hatred on the streets of British cities that we're seeing right now. There should be zero tolerance for this. And the only way that Britain can succeed in the future is if everyone adheres to British culture, to British values, and is also loyal to the Crown. Loyal to everything that Great Britain stands for as a wonderful nation. Those who are not loyal to what Britain stands for shouldn't be in the country. And they should be heading back to wherever they came from, frankly. And as for illegal migrants and the large numbers of those, they should, of course, all be deported from the United Kingdom, which is a key reason, of course, why the UK needs to get out of the European Convention on Human Rights, which is a supranational court that presides over British courts. It's unacceptable. British sovereignty should reign supreme.
The ECHR does not look fit for the 21st century in spite of its noble origins, Niall. Now, Niall, do stay with me. I'd love to bring in my top pundits this evening. We have Annunciata Rees-Mogg, Lord Ranger and Nigel Nelson. Kulveer, do you think that Suella Braverman has been proved right, that multiculturalism has failed?
No, I'm not one of those who thinks multiculturalism has failed. I'm a success story, I believe, of multiculturalism. I'm second generation, born in Britain. Obviously, parents came from East Africa and grandparents from India. But we became part of the country. There was a challenge, and I think for many different cultures that arrived of ghettoization. I think we had in the 50s, 60s, 70s some serious challenges in Britain about ghettoization and whether multicultures were going to succeed. But the British dream has been shared values, fairness, and actually success for all. And that's been through economic success, cultural success, and buying into what Britain means. And I think they're the comments about where we've had now a higher level of immigration coming in. Have we enough time to share those values, to build those successes, and especially when we start seeing the numbers in both legal and illegal migration becoming challenging? So I think multiculturalism isn't a failure. I'm one of those people who'd say I'm a product of that success, but we need to see how we manage it going forward when the numbers are so high.
Annunziata, do you think that Suella Braverman's comments have aged well or badly?
Well, I think there is quite a big debate in this country about the meaning of multiculturalism, and certainly it's been criticised before by very high-profile campaigners for meaning separate communities of different cultures. And in that respect, it is a failure. Where Britain has been incredibly successful has been at integrating everyone into the British way of life, the British dream. We're not Americans, we don't go around waving flags in the same way, but there is a basic set of principles by which we want to live and we want our neighbours to share. And where that has happened, it has worked extremely well and better than any of our European neighbours by a very long way. But when multiculturalism, when it's a segregation of communities has happened, it has not worked well. And I think that's where this disparity comes in.
Nigel Nelson, ethnic tensions in Leicester and the East Midlands, an effective blasphemy law at a school in Batley in which a teacher is still on the run and in hiding, and Jews afraid to enter our capital city when pro-Palestine marches are happening. Multiculturalism, if it's not dead, it's terminal.
No, I think you've taken a number of isolated events there. I mean, the teacher you mentioned, that was because of a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, not to be recommended. We know what's happened in other countries.
But we don't have blasphemy laws in this country, Nigel.
No, but the whole thing is that we do have respect in this country, and I think that you have to respect the other religions which are prominent in this country, and that is Islam. So if you take that particular case, it was a huge mistake to show a cartoon of the Prophet in his school. So that is a separate case. I don't think that comes down to a multicultural problem. I agree with what's just been said, that if you walk around, say, London is a huge melting pot, it's multicultural. You don't notice the fact that all these different cultures and people from ethnic backgrounds are all mixed together. Take your point in some other places. Yes, up in Leicestershire, there's been problems up north. But that is not necessarily a multicultural problem. It is more within the communities that Annunziata was talking about, where people separate.
Closing thoughts, Nile Gardiner. You served as an aide to Margaret Thatcher. She was not anti-immigration, but she wouldn't be happy with how things are playing out in the 21st century.
I think Margaret Thatcher would be appalled today by what we're seeing on the streets of London. Large numbers of Islamists who are clearly supporting terrorism. Many of them are chanting anti-Semitic slogans. We also have British monuments, the Cenotaph, for example, being protected by police against these Islamists. I think she would have called for very, very strong action against these Islamist hate mobs on the streets of London and other British cities. She would have had zero tolerance for supporters of terror, and she would have ensured that those who are breaking the law, and large numbers of people are right now supporting Hamas and other Islamist terrorist movements, she would have ensured that those people would be prosecuted and where possible, deported as well.
Niall, what a treat to see you and have you back on the show. We'll catch up soon. My thanks there to
many thanks.
A lot of things. He's a journalist, an international foreign affairs expert, and of course contributor to the Telegraph, Nile Gardiner.